Let me tell you something. I love obscure scams so much more than mainstream ones. I mean, I know a lot of people love hearing about how bad Dan Bilzerian is, but for me, even if it doesn't get as many clicks, my favorite topics I love talking about are scams that you never have heard of, that you would have never imagined are happening right under your nose. And today we're talking about one of those. Now, we're gonna have to remove the hat today because this is not the time for joking around, okay? Silly fun time is over. Because today we're talking about lawyers who pimp out disabled people for profit. Now, I know you're saying to yourself, Steven, I never heard of this. What are you talking about? Do you mean
sexually?
No, okay, no. Get your mind out of the gutter. They're pimping disabled people out to sue small businesses for profit. But while the disabled person gets almost nothing from this exchange, lawyers are raking in millions of dollars in legal fees. And before we go further, let me say clearly, I am not criticizing the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's an important federal law that says we need to provide equal access to people with disabilities. I totally agree. I'm also not criticizing disabled people or lawyers who are in good faith trying to use this law to get equal access. But there are organizations out there who claim to be working for equal access, but they seem to more be working for a cash grab, which doesn't just hurt the businesses they sue, they're giving disabled people a bad name in the eyes of the community. So with that caveat out of the way, let's explore the wild world of ADA abusive lawsuits and the disabled people who are being pimped out by the lawyers who siphon off all the profits.
How much money have you gotten so far?
I only get $50 from the lawsuit.
From each lawsuit?
From each lawsuit.
Meet Alyssa Carton. She's disabled and she recently filed 99 lawsuits in New Mexico against small businesses, claiming they weren't providing equal access. But here's the catch. She never actually went to the businesses she's suing, as local news KOAT reports.
In the case of Reams Nursery, Alyssa says she didn't go inside, something the owner of the nursery told us too.
Nobody recalls her. Nobody.
Alyssa Carton is one of many disabled people hired to do something called drive-by lawsuits. These are lawsuits which are filed by the hundreds, where a disabled person gets in a van and usually just drives down the road looking for any accessibility issue to sue over with one goal in mind: settlements from the businesses sued. Fox 9 reports that these lawsuits are often served with immediate settlement offers.
Typically, the lawsuits are served on a business with an offer to settle for between $3,500 to $8,000.
But while thousands of dollars may seem expensive, the alternative, actually fighting the case, is usually worse. Even if you win, the legal bill is often more than the settlement would have been.
Candyland rolled the dice and ended up with a $14,000 legal bill.
So for a principal, you actually ended up paying $15,000.
Yes. But if you're thinking to yourself that maybe these lawsuits are really just about fast-paced change, think again. Many stores who paid out settlements report that no actual changes to their stores were required or ever checked. Simply paying the hush money was enough.
The settlements didn't require any repairs.
That tells me that these lawsuits are not about what we claim that they're about. Are they about accessibility for folks with disabilities, or are they extortion? Which is it?
Lawyers are hiring out disabled people, driving them downtown, and suing hundreds of businesses at a time. Not because they visit the stores, but for ridiculous reasons like tiny compliance issues.
This was ground zero for the technical issues he said he easily would have fixed if a person with disabilities had bothered to strike up a conversation with him instead of filing litigation over things like the toilet paper dispenser, which was off by a few inches, like the urinal, which was a few inches too high.
And the businesses sued have two options: settle and pay a few $1,000s, or fight it and end up paying up to 5 figures in legal fees. And look, this is a complicated issue for the disabled people who are involved, who rightfully want disability access and often believe they're getting into something honorable. Alyssa Carton, who we met earlier, said she answered a Craigslist ad mentioning civil rights.
They said they were looking for somebody who cared about ADA.
But in many of these cases, things look less like civil rights and more like a shakedown. In some, the plaintiff, who claims to be disabled, is later found on camera actually to be walking. Take, for instance, this man, who's supposed to be using a walker.
This is Gerald Boitnott. Boitnott's name is on 31 separate lawsuits. We watched one day as he carried his walker up a flight of icy steps to his home.
He can walk again. Absolutely incredible what an ADA lawsuit will do for you. You can walk now. And he's not even the only one. A well-known group who serially sues local businesses is called AID, Advocates for Individuals with Disabilities. And they just hired this man, David Ritzenthaler. He's on hundreds of lawsuits for AID. But Arizona reporter Dave Biskobing found some holes in his story. Firstly was his claim of not making money from the organization that hired him.
I get not a cent.
His lawyer, Peter Stoichnik, has a different story.
Does he get paid anything for this?
Yes.
How come your lawyer said he gives you money?
They do not give me money. Either $100 or 75 goes to Rosenthal.
Not only that, David Rosenthal has another secret. He claims to have a disability walking.
It's not easy to get up and out of my chair.
How do you get around? As a cane?
Well, I hope it's with a cane. Bad days, I'm in a wheelchair.
But later, surprise, surprise, he seems to be walking just fine.
David, also one other thing. How long have you been walking without a cane?
It's another absolute miracle. He can walk. Although he gets testy when Dave asks about his walker.
I don't walk more than about, in fact, I don't have it in this one. I carry a cane in the car with me just because.
But not today?
I don't have it in here today.
Now, as a reminder, that is a small clip from a full investigation by Dave Biskuping. Please go watch it. Local investigative news really doesn't get enough credit, and I won't give the whole thing away, but let's just say that wasn't the only time David Rosenthal was found to be walking. Now, what's the point of all this? Is it that the ADA is bad? No, obviously not. It's the lawyers who are abusing the true purpose of it that are the problem, and honestly, some courts are getting fed up. Recently, Peter Stoichnik, the notorious lawyer behind David Rosenthal, was disbarred. And that would have made a really tidy end to the story. The good guys finally winning and the bad lawyer getting sanctioned and eventually disbarred. But the truth is rarely that neat, because recently Stoichnik is back. Once again, filing lawsuits. Not for other people, because remember, he isn't a lawyer anymore. He's filing, wait for it, on behalf of himself. And he's filing these lawsuits by the hundreds. This time, though, there's no investigative journalist who's done the work to guide us. So I did some digging, personally, to find out what's going on. And what I found will shock you. Find out next time on CoffeeZilla.
It's not easy to get up and out of my chair.